Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I'm Mark from Mixit Studios. I wanted to talk today a bit about some budget microphone choices. So if you're just starting out and you're not sure how much you're willing to invest just yet, or you don't have much money to play with, there are a lot of microphones out there these days that are relatively affordable and are also very versatile, so they'll cover a lot of ground and record a lot of different sources equally well. I wanted to mention a few of my top picks that I think are good if you're working on a budget. First off is the Shure SM7B, which is what I'm talking into right now. This is a very versatile microphone. Typically you'll see it used on vocals the most, both in studio and radio. It was originally intended as a radio broadcast mic, but is a staple in many studios these days. It's not the cheapest microphone that I'm going to mention today. It is around £350, but it's very good, I think, if you're working in untreated rooms or with minimal acoustic treatment, or just somewhere that doesn't have great acoustics. As it being a dynamic microphone, it typically picks up less room influence than, say, maybe a large diaphragm condenser would, which condensers are much more sensitive microphones, so tend to pick up more room sound. So it's very good for recording in less than ideal situations, and it's a great vocal microphone. It's great on electric guitar amplifiers. I've used it on bass cabs, drums as well, even acoustic guitar in a pinch. One thing to bear in mind with this mic is if you are using the preamps built into your audio interface, those may not have enough gain to drive this mic to really get the most out of it and get a good signal to noise ratio. So you will have to consider whether you're going to need to buy an external preamp, or you can get something as a cheaper alternative like a cloud lifter, which they're relatively inexpensive and they run in line between your mic and your audio interface, and it will just boost the signal enough so that you get a good level going into your preamplifier. If you are looking at getting an external preamp, this is definitely a subject for another video, but I will say that I wouldn't necessarily get any of the preamps that are out there that are below the £100 mark, as they won't necessarily be any better than the preamps you already have in your audio interface. I would really look at spending between £200 and £400 if you're going to get something that's going to be worthwhile. Otherwise, I just wouldn't spend the money. The Art Pro MPA2, that's around £300, and that's a dual channel valve preamplifier, which is very good value for the money. It sounds very good. The Golden Age Projects Pre 73 is about £350, and that's a single channel preamp based on a Neve design. Very good preamp, but yeah, I would really look at that kind of ballpark for getting an external preamp. Next on the list is the Aston Origin. You may well have heard a fair bit about these mics already. They generated quite a bit of buzz when they first came out. A lot of people were sort of hailing these as a U87 on a budget, which I wouldn't go that far, but they are very, very good sounding mics. They're around £180, and particularly if you're looking to record vocals, you're looking for your first large diaphragm condenser mic to do vocals with, this would be my number one recommendation. They are feel very well made. They look really nice as well. They look the part. They're very sturdy, have a good amount of weight to them. They have a built-in pop filter, and you can mount them directly onto a mic stand. It has a built-in mic stand thread, although you will need an adapter if you are using European mic stands. I would say I would still use a pop shield if you have one to really get most out of this mic, as even with the inbuilt pop filter, I think you will still have to deal with some plosives without using an additional pop filter. Again, with a shock mount, if you have it, I would still use it with this mic, but you can get away without them in a pinch. And yeah, it's a very nice sounding mic, great on vocals. It has a nice amount of air to it while still sounding relatively natural. A lot of cheaper condenser mics, particularly ones that are geared around vocal recording, they tend to be voiced in a way where they'll be voiced so that they have a good upper mid presence and a good amount of air, which can be flattering towards vocals, but because they have cheaper quality capsules and components, they tend to often sound a bit unnatural and artificial with the EQ curve that they have, whereas this still retains a relatively natural sound and works well on most voices I've recorded with this. Again, you could use this for acoustic guitar, a drum room mic in a pinch, even though it is only cardioid pickup pattern, so maybe not the best choice for something like that. But yeah, like any large diaphragm condenser, there are lots of uses you could put this towards. Recording electric guitar, it can be good for that as well. So yeah, there's lots of options with this mic, although primarily if you're looking for a good vocal condenser mic, this would be my go-to recommendation. There is also the Aston Spirit, which is the model up from the Origin. This is not that different from the Origin. I think it's based around the same design. It does sound a little nicer than the Origin, but not too different. The main difference is that it has multiple selectable pickup patterns. So cardioid like the Origin, which is great if you're doing vocals with this. Omni, if you were to use this as a room mic, it can be great for that. And then figure of 8, which is good if you are, say, doing a live recording or a multi-miking technique, something where you're trying to mitigate spill between microphones or between instruments. Yeah, figure of 8 can be useful for that because it has good rejection from the side. So depending on how you mic something, it can be good for mitigating spill and getting good separation between microphones. So yeah, it's a good versatile all-rounder, this mic, and is not that much more than the Origin. So if you have the extra money to stretch to get this microphone, I would choose this over the Origin. But both microphones are great choices for those who are recording on a budget. If you're looking for a pair of inexpensive pencil condensers, so small diaphragm condensers, Sontronics are another British company and they make a bunch of different microphones, but yeah, I have a pair of the STC 10s and they're the small diaphragm condensers they do, and they are my sort of go-to recommendation for a pair of pencil condensers below £200. They're very good value for money. I've had these for many years and they're still holding up well. They feel very well made, they look very nice, and they sound very good. They're not the best sounding pair of pencil condensers I've ever heard, obviously, but for the money they sound exceptionally good. And I've used these on acoustic guitars as space pair or in XY. I've used these as drum overheads. There are loads of applications you could use a pair of pencil condensers for, so they're a great pair of mics to have in your mic collection as they'll cover a lot of ground. And also the customer service that Sontronics have is very good in my experience. I had to have one of these mics repaired and they did it free of charge. Communication was great and turnaround time was very quick, and yeah, they were just very friendly and nice to deal with, so I would recommend them as a company in that regard. The Audio-Technica AT2020, if you are really on a budget, this can be had below £100, so it's a great option if you really don't have much money at all. This was one of my first condenser microphones that I bought, so it's a great starter microphone. It looks like a large diaphragm condenser, but it's actually a small diaphragm, although it really covers a lot of the uses that you would normally use a large diaphragm for. It's very good on vocals, and again, other stuff you might use a condenser for, acoustic guitar, maybe a cymbal mic on drums, that sort of thing. It's cardioid pickup pattern, doesn't have any kind of front switches on it, so there's no pad, no low cut, so it's a basic microphone, but for the money it's quality, well made, feels very sturdy and well built. I've had this for who knows how many years, and yeah, it still works just fine. Like most cheap condensers, it's not the most natural sounding mic, but it's definitely one of the better cheap condensers that I've heard. This would be my go-to if you're looking at a real budget condenser microphone and maybe your first condenser microphone. I would definitely recommend this mic. The Shure SM58 and SM57 are definitely sort of staples of any mic collection. They're both, you can have them around £100. Sometimes you can find them cheaper. I would beware of buying them used because there are a lot of clones out there on the market. So definitely buy new and from somewhere that's a authorized retailer and a reputable company. Yeah, I mean, what can I say about these really? Like, they are industry standard mics. SM58s are typically used as a live vocal microphone, but they're great to have even for studio mic collections, as they can cover a lot of ground, and once you buy one of these, it's going to last you a lifetime. They're built like a tank. They can take a beating, so it's good as a sort of throw around mic, say a talkback mic, great for anything like that. And for recording, I mean, the SM58 or SM57, I have heard, I actually mixed an album that was mostly recorded with just one SM57 for a variety, like every instrument on the record, and there were drums, guitars, bass, all sorts of stuff, and it had its own sound to it. You're going to have quite a unique sound if you record an entirety of an album with one dynamic microphone. It's all going to have that same tonal character that that mic has, so it had a kind of lo-fi, quite unique character to it. It sounded good. I think you can get caught up on the quality of your mics and let that get in the way of you just cracking on and recording. Yeah, there's a lot that can be achieved with these mics, and they're relatively inexpensive and very sturdily made. Bon Iver, his first album was recorded largely with an SM57 or 58, and whilst it has a lo-fi sound to it, it served him very well. He launched his whole career off it essentially. So yeah, I think if you really learn how to use these mics and you're creative with your uses of them, you can actually achieve a lot with, a budget dynamic mic like this. As a sort of notable mention, there are also the beta versions of the 58 and 57. The main difference is they have a slightly different frequency response and pickup pattern. I think the pickup pattern is a little bit tighter on both of these. On the Beta 57, the head basket design is a bit more sturdy, so a bit better build quality. But really a Beta 57 or regular 57, same with the 58. They're all good choices. There's also the Unidyne 3, which is the precursor to the 57. I kind of prefer the mid-range on these, although there are a bunch of different variants of these, so depending on what year it was made and what factory, they all do sound a little bit different, but these can be worth checking out if you're looking for something a little bit different. Next on the list is the Red 5 Audio drum mic kit. This is a set of 3 like tom snare mics, and they come with mounting hardware to mount it on the rims of your shells, and the mounting hardware is actually very good in this kit. It comes with a bass drum microphone, so you'd use this as an outer microphone for your bass drum, and then a pair of pencil condensers. Now, the bass drum mic and the pencil condensers are not the best sounding. They're okay. They'll get you by in a pinch, but the tom microphones that come with these, I would say, are worth the price of entry alone. They're very, very good sounding. I compare them to the sort of level of something like a Sennheiser E602, which you will see a lot used as tom mics, particularly in live sound, but also in studio sound. And they're built like tanks. The build quality is actually a lot higher than something like an E602, so very good in that regard. If you are needing a set of microphones to record drums, then this, as a cheap point of entry, you can replace the bass drum mic and the overhead mics later on down the line, maybe get something more suited to snare drum. But then you have a good starting point to work from. You've got a good set of tom mics, which really is a staple of any set of microphones that you're going to record drums with. So yeah, I would definitely recommend these. I bought these around £100 second hand many years ago, but I think you can get them below £200 for the whole set. This is a set of mics. They're Chinese made, so you'll see them rebranded under lots of different names. I think ISK is one of the names they go under. If you Google Red 5 Audio, you should hopefully be able to find them. So yeah, I'd say if you're looking for just a point of entry to recording drums and you really don't have much money to play with, because you could easily spend £200 on one kick drum mic, like the Shure Beta 91 or Beta 52. They are around that price point. So yeah, for the amount of money you spend, I think it's definitely worth it as a point of entry, and it gets you started recording drums. Last on the list is the ProDype TT1. Now, this is not a great microphone. It sounds okay, and I've definitely heard some people record some stuff with it, but sounded all right, and I think it can be a good choice as a handheld vocal mic for live use, although despite the fact it feels very well built, the body of the mic feels weighty and feels sturdy, although on the inside of the mic, and I know this from buying a bunch of these for a music venue I worked at, and they were used for a karaoke night, and yeah, they didn't last very long at all. A lot of the components are just sort of glued in place inside the shell, and they quickly started rattling around inside, and yeah, the capsules didn't take much of a beating either, and the sound quickly deteriorated. So you may be wondering why I'm recommending these. I'm recommending them because you can buy them new around £30. I've seen them go for less. They're a switched handheld dynamic, so I think either for live or studio, just as a talkback mic or like a throwaway mic, I think it's good to have a microphone like this in your collection that you don't care too much about, that you can use for sort of throwaway purposes, which is what I often use this for. But as a cheap option to a 58, I think as a live vocal microphone, if you really can't afford a 58, then you can get half decent results with this. They don't have as good feedback rejection as an SM58, and they don't sound as good, but they are relatively close to a 58. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this, particularly as a sort of throwaway mic that you don't care too much about, that isn't going to cost you very much at all. So that's it for my recommendations of microphones on a budget. I hope that's been useful to you. I know that I have gone through a lot of different mic choices over the years and certainly made a lot of mistakes along the way. I think it's important to bear in mind that really, I wouldn't spend too much time worrying about what mics you should buy. I think you work out what budget you have and whatever you can get that you can work with within that. Don't spend too much time worrying about whether your mics are good enough or not. Buy whatever you can that's going to help you get started and get recording, and just really learn how to use it. I think you can spend thousands on microphones, but if you don't know how to utilize them well and get the most out of them, then they're really not going to serve you much better than a microphone that costs you £100 but you know inside out. Yeah, it's really very all relative, and I think it's relative to your experience and knowing how to get the most out of what you have. Again, if you're working in a space where it's not the best sounding room, there's no point spending thousands on really high quality mics. Just get something that is going to be beneficial to the space you're working in, and relative to the space you're working in terms of quality. So yeah, work with what you have, make the most out of it, just whatever allows you to crack on and enjoy recording. You can always upgrade later on down the line. That said, I would still try and at least get one or two high quality mics, and they don't have to be thousands of pounds, but something maybe like the Aston Origin or the Shure SM7B that are not the cheapest mics out there, but that extra step up in quality where you're going to have something solid that you're not necessarily going to outgrow that microphone, and it's always going to serve a purpose in your collection. Whereas if you buy sub £100 mics, you know, you have a collection full of cheap Behringer mics or Chinese knockoff mics, you'll probably reach a point where you outgrow them and then you no longer need them. Even though I think every microphone always serves a purpose, a mic that might sound completely terrible on the right source can be just what it needs for that recording, particularly if you're going for like lo-fi sounds or something with a weird character to it. So every mic serves its purpose, but I think if you have some staple mics in your collection that you invest in from the onset that you're not going to outgrow, You're just going to grow with them and learn how to get the most out of them. That is the way to go if you can. So yeah, I hope this has been useful and you've enjoyed the video. Give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to keep up to date with the videos that I'm putting out. Hit the notifications bell as well, and then you'll get notified when a new video comes out. But yeah, I've been Mark from Mixit Studios, and I'll see you again in the next one.